What if the biggest mistake in this entire feud wasn't made by 50 Cent? What if it was made by King Harris? Not because defending his mother was wrong, not because the anger wasn't justified, but because 50 Cent has spent over 2 decades building a specific system for public conflict, and King walked directly into it, step by step, exactly as designed. To understand why, you have to understand the formula first, because once you see it, you can't unsee it across 50's entire career. No, he doesn't fight with rage, he fights with patience. He pokes at something until the other side reacts emotionally. Then he minimizes that reaction. A meme, a laugh, 3 letters, while the internet amplifies how heated the other person looks. The narrative flips from whatever he did to whatever they did in response. By the end, the conversation isn't about his original move anymore, it's about whether his opponent went too far. He ran this on Ja Rule for years until Ja's career collapsed under the weight of it. He did it to Rick Ross. He did it to Floyd Mayweather. The names change. The formula doesn't. Now watch how it played out here, beat by beat. T.I. sparked the situation earlier this year by going public with a claim that he and 50 had privately discussed a Versus battle. According to Tip, the understanding was simple. He would announce it publicly. 50 would confirm. R in the Culture would get the heavyweight catalog showdown it had been waiting for. When T.I. went public, 50 acted like the conversation never happened. For T.I., that wasn't a scheduling issue. It was a character issue. He went on record saying he no longer respected 50. And in hip-hop, that word between veterans is a declaration, not a complaint. 50 responded by calling him King Rat in the comments. Crime Stoppers footage resurfaced. Old court clips circulated. Then snitch allegations flew both directions. T.I. hinted of his own. What was supposed to be a catalog celebration had become a credibility war. Still, at this point it was contained. 2 grown men. Messy, personal, but between them. Then 50 executed step 1 of the formula. He posted an unflattering photo of Tiny Harris and captioned it with a warning for T.I. to keep his name out of his mouth. This wasn't random trolling. Tiny hadn't said a word about any of this. She wasn't on podcasts, she wasn't in comment sections. She was completely uninvolved. But 50 understands something most people underestimate. A man will absorb a lot of personal insults before he absorbs an attack on his household. Pull family in and you guarantee a reaction. Not just from T.I., but from anyone in that household watching in real time. T.I. responded in the comments, measured but firm. He didn't go to 50's family, he kept it pointed. King Harris didn't respond that way. And that's exactly what the formula needed. The second King saw his mother trending for mockery, he went live. No delay, no filter, no strategy. Pure emotion. He fired at 50 directly. He questioned how someone raises a man who does this. He said everything he felt without pausing to calculate where it was going. Then he went to the deepest place he could reach. He posted what appeared to be an image of Sabrina Jackson's headstone, told 50 to dig her up, said it more than once. Anya Sabrina Jackson was 15 when she had Curtis. She raised him alone in South Jamaica, Queens, during one of the most dangerous eras that neighborhood ever saw. In 1983, when Curtis was 8 years old, she died in a fire authorities believed was no accident. That she may have been drugged before gas was left running in the apartment. No arrests, no conviction. The case was never solved. 50 has spoken about it across decades. He said he didn't understand death at 8, that he kept waiting for her to come back. He's talked about how that void sent him into the streets by 12, how the hunger people see in him traces directly back to losing her before he was old enough to process what losing meant. That's not internet content, that's the foundation of who he became. When King posted that headstone, he wasn't firing a diss at a rapper. He was pressing on the deepest wound in 50's origin story. A murdered mother, an unsolved case, a childhood shaped by unresolved grief, in front of millions of people. The internet froze. Not because it was shocking in a generic way, but because anyone who knew 50's history understood what had just been touched. King didn't stop there. He pulled old court footage. He referenced past legal issues. He ran an archive search on every piece of damaging content he could find, and threw all of it at once. It was full emotional attack mode from someone running entirely on loyalty and adrenaline. And T, watching his son in this storm, did what veterans do. He went to the booth. He previewed a diss track called War, and the tone wasn't promotional. It was pointed. He labeled 50 a dispatcher, implying cooperation without spelling it out. He referenced paperwork. He attacked credibility. In hip-hop, those accusations aren't light. They attack identity at its core. T.I. was fighting lyrically while his son was fighting emotionally, and 50 was doing something else entirely. He posted a meme, Pepe the Frog, caption, LOL. No emotional response, no acknowledgement of the grave image, no matching the intensity, just a cartoon and 3 letters. That's step 2 of the formula completing itself, because now watch what happened to the narrative. But one moment the conversation was, 50 crossed a line by posting Tiny. The next moment it was, did King go too far by posting a murdered parent's grave? The original provocation faded into the background. The emotional reaction became the headline. That flip didn't happen by accident. 50 has spent 20 years engineering exactly that sequence. Provoke, wait for emotion, minimize with humor, let the internet do the rest. When one side looks heated and the other looks amused, new perception assigns control to the calmer figure regardless of who started it. Whether 50 was actually unbothered internally is a separate question. He's admitted in interviews that he never fully processed losing her, that the grief never completely healed. But online, in the middle of the situation he created, he showed a frog emoji. And that composure, real or performed, repositioned him in public perception almost instantly. Here's what makes this more significant than a standard beef. King Harris isn't a hardened veteran who has survived multiple public wars. He's 21, still building his name, trying to establish an identity that isn't just T.I.'s son. He's stepping into fatherhood. Every move he makes right now is being watched not just by hip-hop fans, but by people deciding whether to take him seriously as an artist on his own terms. 50 Cent has been doing this since 2003. He survived 9 gunshots, multiple industry blacklistings, legal battles, bankruptcy, again more public conflicts than most people can count. He understands how internet narratives move, how algorithms amplify emotion, how a single meme can reframe an entire week of events. That experience gap matters enormously in a situation like this. When King went live, grabbed the grave image, and started throwing everything he could find, he was fighting with everything he had. And that's exactly the problem. If fighting with everything you have against someone who fights with patience means you've already shown your hand completely while the other person hasn't moved yet. 50's response wasn't indifference, it was a calculation. By not escalating musically, by not matching the emotional register, by reducing the whole thing to LOL, he forced the internet to weigh a grave post against a frog meme. One side looks like it lost control, the other looks like it never had to try. And some people will read this and say King was right to defend his mother. He was. Watching your mother publicly mocked in front of millions of people and doing nothing about it isn't an option for most people. And at 21, with the loyalty King clearly has for his family, that reaction was human and understandable. But understandable and strategic are 2 different things. And the uncomfortable truth is that 50 posted Tiny specifically because he knew what kind of reaction it would generate from inside that household. He knew T.I. would stay measured. He knew there was a younger, more emotional variable watching. He knew that variable would react publicly and loudly. He created the conditions for exactly what happened. That's not just trolling, that's engineering. King defended his mother. That part is real. But 50 got the reaction he was waiting for. He positioned himself as unbothered while the other side looked unhinged, and watched the narrative flip from his provocations to King's response, all without dropping a single verse. In a war between strategy and emotion, strategy almost always wins the optics. And in 2026, where screenshots outlast apologies and algorithms reward intensity, optics are often the only thing that matters long after the actual argument is forgotten. King may have felt like he was standing on business, but he was standing exactly where 50 needed him to stand.